We think everything is separate, but it's all working together. Y'all keep saying that this thing is a distraction or that thing is a distraction, but you're missing the actual point. It all works together. Okay, so I think we got the case about Diddy by a very great storyteller right now. Because as I'm thinking about where we are in our current situation, I keep having flashes of Diddy. What I'm getting about that is just how much Diddy and EpiPen were two sides of the same exact coin. Except one got power drunk and lost the plot, and then the other was betrayed by the guy they claim was an informant. But one of the things that they both had in common, besides having very sick perversions, is that they worked meticulously, tediously, and thoroughly to blackmail anyone they wanted something from. While one threw parties and slipped his true desires the Mickey, the other one threw parties and I feel like may have done the same. Now, I'm going to have to tap in spiritually and see if that is actually true, but this is what I am allegedly claiming, right? So, one slipped the Mickey so that he could indulge in his perversion, because again, he was power drunk, he was closeted, and he was unchecked, right? But the other one, I think a lot of people knew what they were doing as far as like partaking of mind-altering substances. And I think they thought they were engaging with maybe just 18 or just 17 aged desserts. I hate that I have to use code words. Both of these, we're going to call them men, just for the sake of having something that slings between their legs. But both of them like to record other people doing dirty deeds. We've already seen open cases about the sordid stories and tales about the diddler. But when we start talking about EpiPen, here's what I think went down. In another video, I alluded that one of the ways I think EpiPen got power over Wexler or whatever his name is because he caught the CEO of Victoria's Secret doing something a little illegal. And in doing so, was able to blackmail him to a job, to power of attorney, to the catalyst of his next 20 years of life. And in doing that, he learned it worked. He knew having proof, tapes, pictures, etc., of men caught in compromising positions and having those young girls help him recruit other young girls for money would ensure people's silence. Because how shameful is it to know that you helped lead another female into a situation that you yourself didn't even like? So congressmen and businessmen alike, some married, would be indulging in their appetites, maybe of just illicit affairs, maybe not for actual young predilections, but the barely legal ones, like the 17 and the 18. And then they find out, surprise, she's actually 14. There is only one man on record who has attended one of those parties and dipped because he said, this candy is too young for me. And that was Mr. Nasty As You Wanna Be. So I already knew if that was too young for him, because he liked them young, he liked them like 18, 19, whatever. But if that was too young for him, then that meant there was some real sordid things going on at these parties in the Palm Beach area, not just on an island. So I think men who thought they were just committing adultery, and yes, I'm going to say just there, right? Actually discovered after being on tape or after having these things recorded that not only were they committing adultery, so their wives will leave them if shown the tapes or the pictures, but also that they had broken the law and engaged in child stuff. And that, my dears, is how you lock these people in. They think they're buying one thing from their dealer, only to find out it's laced with fentanyl, the kind that will get you locked up because it's really against the law. Now, I'm not giving excuses, because the devil will always be able to expose where you've already been, to expose what character you already have. You just never expect that the cost of going into deals with the devil would actually be your life or your livelihood. Do I think some are willing? Heck yeah. Y'all already see in some of these bro-manospheres that there are many men who says, if it bleeds, it can whatever, right? This is old-timey talk. And if you check your own family histories, you'll find out probably that your grandmother or your great-grandmother, or just a long line of them, had been married a little too young. While I love my grandfather, and I absolutely do, he was the bee's knees to me, it does not escape me that he was 19 years old when he married my grandmother, who was 14 years old and was made a mother by 15. That doesn't miss me. But I can say at least they were both teens on one level, because history shows it was even nastier than that. 30, 40, 50-year-old men going after 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds. Just the minute that she gets into her womanhood, never mind the fact that she's not actually entering womanhood, she's being prepared for it. This is the cycle trying to gear up and get going and get a predictable thing going on. So that said, it's all intertwined, because those people who consider themselves conservative, so many of them are actually closeted. And so, because they can also get those kind of predilections, those type of desserts through the EpiPen, they found themselves being compromised. One such person was the guy who got compromised in a bathroom, tapping, trying to get some play, but he ends up doing that to a police officer who I think was like some sting or some undercover thing, but he was conservative. And if y'all notice, if you've seen all the mugshots that's been quietly hitting the news, most of them come from some kind of conservative or uber religious or just nut job type of sect within our humanity, and they're usually caught with children. In fact, this past week, there was a major story about an 11-year-old who had to give birth to her stepfather's child. And her mother deliberately got pregnant so that likely she was going to pass those kids off as twins. They withdrew the girl from school so that nobody would notice. But she had to go to the hospital, thankfully for that. And that's how all of this came out. This is what's going on in so many households. And as a person with melanin who grew up being told how broken melanated households were and how perfect non-melanated households were, how ideal, how beaver cleaver they were, it absolutely amazes me, but enlightens me that so many women from these cultures of my age and older are coming out with stories about having SA from family members. Or you hear stories about how these married, non-melanated women were essentially running households like single moms, because their husbands would be gone for weeks at a time. So it's just wild to me that people who painted themselves as perfect just happen to be human. But it's all tied together.